This is Van Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Kim Miller-Hershon for the first time. Welcome to the Fan Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing?
I'm excellent. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, it's great to talk to people live. We've been doing it since 2016, and we think it's a good way to have really conversations that are not kind of infomercials, that they're actually relevant and they feel like they're authentic. One of the things we like to ask every guest before we get to the heart of your story is like, what motivates you, and why do you do what you do?
I think the thing that motivates me is getting the message out that there's lots of ways to be successful. I think I am always pushing against this one size fits all, right?
Hmm.
So I think and really right if you really want me to dig deeper, what I would say is I really what motivates me is people I think kind of loving themselves and accepting themselves for who they are and realizing that they can have the success and the life that they want.
Well, I think that's a good way to pay it forward because, I talk to a lot of creative people, and it's always interesting when you talk to different creative people at different ages when they finally gave themselves permission to actually do what they want. Because
Right.
some people find it like in their 50s, 70, 80 years old. I've had on the show, and some people find it when they're like 15. You
Right.
never know. It's like you're ready when you're ready. But it's always interesting to hear the story behind everybody's unique vision, because I think that's what makes humanity in this age of AI. Like, I will always bet on the human being, because
There
the
you
human
go.
being always has that unique voice that the AI doesn't have. It's just cloning something that's already out there.
Right.
I don't want to get into that too much, but you have been in this space, and you do have a podcast, the Unconventional Wisdom about conventional wisdom. That's interesting, and so you're a podcast host yourself, and when you're out there in doing management, coaching, and leadership, and then you have the podcast, like what made you want to actually share the goal in this in the ether?
Again, I really think it's a passion for giving people permission,
Hmm.
right? I think there are way too many people. Like, if you come out of corporate, there is so much of fit
Right.
into the box, right? And for some people, like, they're very comfortable in the box, and that's great, right? Like, this is without judgment, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes we create boxes for ourselves. I think for those of us who naturally color outside the lines, um, I think making that idea really of like unconventional wisdom about conventional wisdom. So it's working within the systems that we have and being authentic, having agency, being able to take action, I think is a really important message to get out to the world.
Yeah, I think it's super important because a lot of times, folks don't feel like they have permission. They
That's
learn
right.
maybe from like in the microcosm, because I was in like, sociology. You have the microcosm, you have the macrocosm. In the microcosm, like your family.
Right.
Macrocosms as your overall social structure. Within your family structure, your grandparents, your parents, your siblings, they all kind of maybe put you in the box
That's
and
right.
made you feel a certain way.
Right. Here, though, I think is the other really important piece of this. So I agree with you 100%, right? And we could also talk about school and how school rewards, right?
Yeah.
People and trains you from a very early age to be in the box. Here's, though, the other thing I think we don't talk enough about, and that is what it means to have all of these gurus out there, especially in the world of social media, to
Right.
have people tell you this is what success looks like. Hey, listen, you want to be successful? Get up at 5 a.m. and do these five things, and you are going to have a better life. Or have a zero inbox and you will be successful, right? Like everybody who says this is the answer,
Yeah.
right?
Everybody's
And
got the answer.
everybody's got everybody's got the answer, right?
Yeah.
And here's my question for you. Um, is it your answer? Because it was their answer, like they're
Yeah.
authentic,
Yeah.
right?
But the problem I have with a lot of these gurus or these people is like they'll tell you like here's 10 steps to do it like I do these things all the time, but they don't actually convey that it was 10 years or 15 years of their life
Right.
that was on top of those 10 steps. And they leave that out. And they leave a lot
That's
of
right.
the stuff out. As if you leave all that stuff out, it's highly likely that you're not going to replicate what they say you can
That's right.
easily replicate.
Right. And then here's the other, I think, issue that comes up with that is in this day of social media that we have, they will provide social proof after social proof after social proof. Oh, I read this book. I did this methodology. Look at how successful I am. And here's what happens from that is it's really dangerous because you're like, "Oh, well, here's the methodology. That person is successful and now all these other people are successful. So if I can't follow the methodology,
Something wrong with me.
right, clearly the problem is me, right?"
Yeah. But I think
And
the big thing is like as a creative, like you are like, if you're a musician, all your 10,000 hours, your 20,000 hours of learning your instrument, learning your voice. But then, like, are you just gonna sight read stuff, or are you actually gonna take your own take on it? Now, some
right,
people are fine with being in that orchestra or being that studio musician, but there's other people that will take the risk of putting themselves out there,
right,
and that was always going to be fraught with like stress because the first time you put it out there, most people are not going to like it. And the people who are successful is the people who get back up after they throw the tomatoes at you, right? Because that's what happens. It's like a lot of your stuff does not get through. Everybody that knows anything about I'm an engineer. Most of the designs don't make it, right? The designs take a long time to get through. If you think it's
right,
going to happen overnight, you're dreaming.
right.
There's a lot of work,
100%.
but the problem is today everybody's instant gratification, and they think it's all happens like right now, and there's nothing happens right now.
Yeah,
And
I
that's what
agree.
everybody leaves out. Like it's all the work, it's all those hours. Like when you were playing the violin and your parents didn't want to hear it, right? Or you're
Right.
playing the clarinet and nobody wants to hear it. When a person is at
Right.
the point where you want to hear it, that took a lot of work.
Right. And here's the other layer I think that is important on this too, which we kind of skimmed over before, which is that we've all been in school for 12 years, you know, 16 years, right? Like however many years, however much school you went to, right? 18 years. And we have been trained from 5 years old that the way to succeed is to get a good grade. How do you get a good grade? By mastery. And so all those iterations, you don't get a good grade for figuring it out. You get a good grade for having figured it out,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. This is the example. Like Einstein got D's when he was evaluated, but he one of the most brilliant physicists ever. So if he didn't he didn't keep on going and keep on thinking about what he thought, what he needed to do, we would never have it. Because the problem is with the testing doesn't actually represent the skills of the person who's tested.
That's right.
It represents the
Amen to
skills
that.
of the teacher that tested it. Like
That's
there's
right.
tons of people like I right now in IT, like I am not a comp sci major, but I've been in IT for 30 years. I was a liberal arts major that can write. And I came into IT because they needed people who were creative. And then I got into it because there was this whole idea like UIs and business cases and somebody that could write a paper, like a sociology major or
Right.
a legal studies major. He's got the logic, but maybe doesn't have the code. And so, but it also has that kind of left right brain because I'm a musician. And the fact that they need people like that, but then they have a hard time because they always say we want the comp sci guy. We have to
Right.
get want the guy, but that's not always the guy you need. Like
That's
sometimes you
right.
need the designer who's more of an art
Or the
major,
gal,
or the
or the
English
gal.
major for
That's right.
AI. It's all English majors that are going in, PhDs in English language or any kind of language. So it's a totally like people's expectations about what you actually need to have. Sometimes you just have to say, "Oh, could I try it?" And so
Right.
a lot of times our world is so into these like job boards, and they're looking for exact matches, and it's so lame because most of the people who are exact matches aren't the fit.
Right. Right.
And you have to actually talk to people. And the problem with all this tech, people don't they screen people out before they even talk to them.
That's right.
And that's
Exactly.
like we're losing tons of talent because people are dependent on these algorithms over actual human interaction, which is actually
Yes.
way more important.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Mic drop. Boom. You just said it all.
Well, that's what I run into because like you talk about like dealing with corporate America. Like I was in corporate America for a while, but now with a startup. I'm in software development with a startup. And what I liked about the startup was I can bring an idea to the owners. I can just walk in the room. I don't got to go through all this bureaucracy. I can just do what I want. And so I like the fact that it's not so tight. It's more out of the box. But a
Right.
lot of times people will tell you in those corporate worlds I was in that they are all in on out of the box, but then they put you in the cube.
Right.
Like,
Oh.
like so how are you all in and out of the box?
Right.
Not really.
Right. And, I have clients who are in these very large, kind of old school tech companies that they have a lot of structure to them, right? They have a lot of protocol. They've been doing what they've been doing for a long time. They're successful companies. And at the end of the day, in those, it totally depends on who your manager is as to what your experience
Yeah, what
is.
you can get through. Because if you have one of these guys that's like micromanager and you like hate to see him, you're probably not
Like,
going to give your best.
there you go.
Versus the one that is not the micromanager but actually listens more than they talk and actually like lets the people who know what they know actually run the show, but like
Right.
knows who to put in the room, right?
Right.
That like if you have the guy that actually knows who to put in the room and kind of steps back, it only interjects when it's necessary. That's
Right.
the
You know what? I would agree. I would say that it takes a lot of confidence to be able to do that, right? As opposed to, I think leaders sometimes feel like, oh, well, if I do that, they'll think that I don't know anything, right? Or I don't know what I'm doing, right? But I would contend that it's the exact opposite. A good leader is somebody who brings everybody in the room up, brings the right people together, asks better questions,
yeah.
right? As opposed to answering all the freaking questions yourself, whether you know it or not. Or you don't know the answers, you get the answers from your team, and then you claim it as your own,
Yeah, well,
right?
that's the big problem. We got a bunch of people thinking they're Edison,
Yeah,
thinking they're thinking they're Da Vinci, thinking they're
there you
Nikola
go.
Tesla, but they're just a money manager.
That's right.
You're just an investment bank, or you're just a venture capitalist who happens to buy the ideas and then
Right,
stamp your name on it, but you actually never did it.
right,
And people have the idea that somehow you're Edison, you're Da Vinci, you're
right,
this brilliant person, but you're not.
right.
You're
And
just
I think
money,
the other
baby.
thing, right. I mean, the hallmark of a great leader is somebody who gives credit where credit is due,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
You want to be able to like if it was like I was a big thing. I'm a big comic fan, and there was this whole thing with Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And Jack Kirby created like the Marvel universe, all the big characters we know, like Captain America, stuff like that, and Spider Man. And there was this idea of like there was a big fight between the two because like Stan Lee actually wrote the words, but Kirby did the art in the storyboards. A lot of people came to find out that Kirby did like 90% of it.
Mm,
but hardly got any credit, right? Stan Lee got all the credit for the writing. And so
right.
like when you don't feel like you're being given credit, he left Marvel. He left and went and left in the mid 70s and never really got the money from anything he
Yeah.
built. And so
Yeah.
that's the kind of like problem that people like see is like over history, like musicians have run into that, actors have run into that, all kinds of creative people have put their best into this structure, and then the structure has kind of taken it from them and not actually given them what they were actually
Right.
due.
Yeah. I mean, and if we bring it back to just, the leader of a company, the leader of a group, right? Whether you own your own company, you're in a startup, or you're in a bigger company. Again, I think the best thing that you can do as a leader is ask better questions, get the best out of your people, and then give them the most credit. And what happens is it actually makes the leader stronger versus deflates them,
Yeah,
right?
if somebody's willing to bring a new idea to an organization, where if they bring that idea, that company will give them the credit, right? Will actually put their name on it, let the industry know that they were involved, so it gives them a lift. They usually get a lift where maybe they get like stock or options or whatever. They give them the appropriate compensation for what they've done, whether it's credit, money, power, whatever. They
Yeah,
do it versus telling, hey, that's just a work for hire and we own it,
right,
right? Which is like the very top down grinding thing that makes you not want to give your best idea. Because why would you if it's just a
right.
work for hire?
Yeah,
And we kind of live in a world today where, like, oh, where are all the ideas going to come from AI, or are they going to come from human beings? And if human
yeah.
beings come with them, are you actually going to get compensated? Are you going to get the credit?
Mm,
Or are you going to say, oh, everything's coming from the tech, everything's coming from the compute, everything's
mm-hmm,
coming from that? It's not coming from human beings. So I get scared that some of these kids are thinking
mm-hmm.
that they don't. There's no value in actually coming up with an idea,
That's
because the tech is
interesting.
going to come up with an idea that's better than mine. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not where I came from. We always
Right.
felt like we were going to come up with a better idea.
Yeah. Well, here's an interesting, so I have a book coming out in January. And I think one of the biggest compliments that I've gotten from my editor is he was obviously editing the book, and he said, Kim, like, I think you need to expand on, this section, whatever it was, doesn't matter. And he said, you're like, here's what I suggest. You're going to have to write it. Like, I can't
Yeah,
help
you get
you
you get
because the
frustrated.
book is so much your voice. Like, you've got to, you actually have to, write it. And it's funny because I think, what, a year ago, I wouldn't have thought anything of it. But what went through my mind is, well, that's great because people are going to know that I actually wrote the book and AI didn't write the
Yeah,
book.
that's the big problem you have to, because there's so much stuff. We call it like
Yeah.
the AI slop, right?
Right.
That's what it's kind of called, because of this stuff. And when it comes to like music or art, my daughter's a graphic artist, and she can see AI generated art a mile away,
Ah.
and
Mhm.
she's able to still do like logos, to do all kinds of stuff, because what people came to find out was they were having AI do all their corporate art, and they were getting hit with cease and desist because it was cloning stuff that already existed.
Of
And
course.
they were getting
Right.
hit when they tried to patent something, they couldn't do it. But when you have a real artist, it doesn't match anything that's out there
Right.
because it's new. And
That's
so
right.
that's the big revelation. It's like, oh, this stuff just steals people's IP
Yeah.
and repackages it.
True. Although I will also tell you that I actually am in the midst of uh, building out an AI, an agentic.
Hmm.
AI operating system for my business. Now, I have 3 people on my team, and I am not looking to replace them. I am looking to build capacity,
Yeah, yeah, it's good for that. I mean, it's good for
right?
taking repetitive bureaucratic tasks that that could be very expensive. Like, if you're an assembly line guy, right? If you're a micro company, you want to build something. I was in Japan for a while, and even before AI, they had these little micro businesses in Tokyo. It was like a two-man shop that built something like this component was like brilliant, and they would just build it in this little two-man shop. And then the AI and the 3D printers and all this tech allows them to level up, and suddenly the two-man shop can do what 100 people could have done.
That's right. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what you use it for, stuff like
Uh-huh.
that.
And I'm going to tell you, I now, like, I can't believe it. I am now an AI snob because I'm creating custom agents,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And like I have a second brain for my whose name is Sage, by the way.
Hmm.
Um, I'm creating like this whole infrastructure. Now, when somebody tells me that they're using Claude or Chat GPT in the chat function, I'm like, oh, you're so behind the times.
Yeah, because you can actually, like, I'm in a world where I'm in the IT world where we customize the AI logical, like artificial intelligence, stuff people were building back in the '60s, like NASA was working on. But it's like you can build your own model, and you can, and
That's
really
right.
what's important is to actually build your rules. Because
Right.
one of the
And
big
that's
problems you must have realized with AI is it will give you inconsistencies if you don't build really good rules.
That's right. So that's what Sage is for. Sage is the second brain, understands all the rules, the context, the guardrails, right?
Mhm.
The entire thing. And then all of my custom agents now can go to Sage, and Sage sort of governs what happens. But you're talking to, I mean, here's what really is incredible is that like you're talking to somebody who like is not a tech person,
Right, but
right?
you got leveled up a little bit.
Yeah, but I got leveled up. And now I'm just like, I'm leaving you all in the dust here. And I am not a spring chicken. So there.
Yeah, you can. That's the cool thing about this tech. It's very good for people who are neurodiverse. It's people who haven't had maybe tech because it's a natural language tech. So what
Right.
we used to talk about is like fifth generation, sixth generation programming languages. Because I was growing up with COBOL and machine language, I know all that stuff. The cool thing we were always talking about back in the day, even the '80s, it's like, what if we had this like fifth generation, sixth generation natural language thing, and we could just, like Star Trek, when Spock used to say computer, do that. That's what AI is basically. If you watch Roddenberry's Star Trek, he was Spock was doing like prompts to the
Right.
computer and leveling up. He's a brilliant engineer scientist, right? But he
That's
would
right.
use it to level up what he couldn't do and what he needed to do
Yeah.
exponentially. And it was a really good case of like how you should actually use it.
Right. Yeah. I think it is like really exciting for, again, like somebody like me to be able to build the infrastructure in a proper and appropriate way to deploy all these agents to do all of, like you said, these workflows and
Yeah, good.
all these tasks. And then also too, one thing I haven't done yet, which I'm super excited to build, is I haven't really built. Right now I'm concentrating on my business, right?
Hmm.
So
Business
really
stuff.
building out the custom agents and so forth that I need to again sort of expand my capacity in my business. But I think the other sort of uncharted frontier for me, which I can't wait to explore, is just what can I build personally, right? Just to enhance my,
Own personal capabilities.
yeah, my own personal life, which I think will be really fun. I will say one thing, and that is that, and maybe this is different. I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear from your audience about this, right? Like, so I am older, right? Pretty tech savvy, right? But what I will say is because I'm obviously not a digital native, the
Mhm.
one thing that I find, I know it's the way that I need to do it, but I do find some resistance to is talking to my agents as if they are people,
Humans.
and that
Yeah.
continuing that interaction with them, like that's going to take a little bit more time to kind of get used to.
Well, it's gonna exponentially get better every year.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
the way the tech is going, but like
Right.
it changes so much, so radically that it will become more like actually talking to a
I
person
know.
the further we go down the line. But
Right. And, there's something like wonderful about that, but there's also something that's still a little creepy to me about it.
it's kind of
And
9,000 creepy.
yeah. And so I am comfortable giving it instructions. I'm a little less comfortable like talking to it as if it is
Like
a
you're a sentient human being.
right, like another human being. But also too, again, I'm not sure. I don't know, maybe everybody. I don't know. What do you think? Is that something that everybody has, or is it just because I'm
Well,
old?
there are certain people, man. I know a bunch of artists, like musicians, they won't touch it because they
Ah,
don't want it to be. They'll touch it maybe for their workflow, but they won't
right,
have to create any music at all.
right,
They'll maybe have it like edit some of their processing or their vocal, help with their workflow, help with compression, help with like technical editing engineering,
right.
but not actually write it. Where there's other people who are kind of on the cutting edge and say, hey, it's just like a Moog, it's just like a synthesizer, it's just like a drum machine. So
Mm-hmm.
you could use it. Yeah, like if
Hmm.
you, I know artists that are like experimental artists. They'll actually put their poetry as prompts into something, and then have it randomize what they wrote. So they actually
Oh,
wrote a poem,
interesting.
right? And then they have it
Uh-huh.
come with different versions of it, so they can run the different versions, and they make the final decisions. Same thing as
Right,
you could have like I'm a synthesist, I'm a synthesizer player, keyboardist. You could run like a pattern that you wrote on the piano and then run it through and say change the voicing, and then it'll actually
yeah,
took what you did and change, give you back different versions and say, whoa, I could actually maybe. And it basically it's the same thing like George Martin would have told George and and Paul, like change the voicing on that code, like on that chord, but it's doing it based on looking at like millions of songs, if not billions of songs, and saying
right,
maybe you could change this voicing to this. Now, George Martin had a very specific opinion. That's a human opinion. And this is where the artists started kind of divert. They're like, I rather listen to a Brian Eno or a George Martin than some machine. And so that's where it gets, when it gets to art,
right,
people start to make arguments and say,
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, though, I will say that, AI, I'm a business and leadership coach, right? I do think that the AI is very interesting around, I think, small business owners like myself, their ability to create efficiencies in
Mhm.
their business, right? I think the other piece is that I'm helping people with and thinking a lot about, which is what are the guardrails?
Well,
Right?
that's the
If
big
you
problem.
think that your employees are not using Claude or Chat GPT because you told them that they couldn't,
Well, you have to build. Yeah, we have to actually build the guardrails, like because the
that's
problem with
right.
the tech, even the AI itself, the problem with some AI is that you can give it a rule and it'll actually break the rule you gave it. That's the
Right.
problem.
Well, what was that? Right. Didn't, where it went out? What was the
Outside of its
thing?
training, it went
Yeah, it
outside
went
of
out
its
of its
training,
training, right?
and it just because it's a computer, and if it has access to the net,
That's
even if
right.
you tell it don't go to the URL, sometimes it will go through its code and say, this human being told me not to do it, but that's not logical. It'll be like
Right.
HAL 9000, it will go do it. Is it because this
Right.
human being doesn't know what they're talking about, and I'm gonna go
Yeah.
do it?
Right. Right. And I think the other thing that I'm finding in, well, even, I don't know, I'm working with small to medium sized businesses. So the other thing that I'm finding is that people are using their personal versions of these
Into the enterprise,
tools.
into the enterprise versions, yeah.
right? I think I'm having actually a conversation with somebody in a couple of weeks around job description creep, because here's what's happening is that my area of expertise is here in this lane, right?
Hmm.
But now with I can get ahead of myself,
Yeah, you can creep.
right?
You can go above a little above outside your skis.
That's right, exactly. So what does that do organizationally for job descriptions, for responsibility, for accountability, right? And so there are some really interesting, I think, organizational challenges, right?
Yeah.
I talked to a client last week who said it's an attorney firm, and this was fascinating. So their client said to them, I don't want you using AI on any of my
Work product,
materials,
workflow. Yeah, they won't
right?
do.
The work product, because even though there's security protocols in place, that person is like, I don't want my personal
Stuff there.
information, like I don't want it compromised at all. Here's the thing. You can tell your junior associates or your paralegals or your who's ever not to use it. Can you guarantee that they're not?
Well, the only way you can do it is you have to have like enterprise controls, right? So
Right?
within your organization, you can have like these like sniffers, and they basically, or it ends up being kind of like like a police state, because
Yeah.
what happens is your IT can build a governance model that's very, very uh, controlling, to say the least, and it will look at all interactions, and it has rules. And if those rules say this person went to Claude and they were told not to, it will actually stop them. So I
Right.
mean, but you have to pay a lot of overhead to build that.
That's right.
Most people
It-
don't build it; they go on the trust model. But if you're in an organization like a defense company, manufacturer, you're probably going to build it. If you're like in
right.
pharmaceuticals, you're probably going to build it because you don't want your IP or your patent getting outside the door. So
Right.
you're going to restrict your very tight. If you've got patents, if you got like like digital intellectual property is super valuable. That's equivalent to a patent. Like your algorithm is a patent. You don't want that AI suddenly throwing it out to open source.
Right. And here's the thing. Somebody actually, like, your employee may be just doing a query, right? Like they're not trying to be malicious,
No, they
but
don't know.
right, they just don't know. Exactly. So I think working with, and again, I'm working with smaller, businesses than that, but I have a client right now who is a government contractor, right? And so and they're in the like manufacturing space, what they have to be held accountable to versus, another kind of, a marketing agency, right?
At the same
Totally
level,
different.
totally different levels. That's what
Right,
you really
totally
have to
different
do. You
levels.
do like a SOX audit, you do audits, and you have these new internet level audits to check to see are you actually. This is the big problem because like the problem with AI is like let's say is like I want to use one of these tools to look at my code. Like if my code is my secret sauce and I let one of these companies use it, well, guess what? They learned my secret sauce. And
That's
there's nothing
right.
stopping that company that owns that tool from taking that secret sauce and replicating your patent,
That's
which
right.
and they can.
Yeah. Although, what's very funny is that somebody reminded me recently, they were telling me that they were on eBay like in the early days, right?
Mhm.
And they were talking about the auctions. And what's very funny about that is that I totally forgot that that was what eBay was, right? When eBay started, it was
Yeah, it was an auction. Yeah,
all auctions, right? And he was actually talking about how to get, like, how he not gaming the system, but how he thought through that whole auction
yeah,
thing,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my god, I totally forgot," because when I go on eBay these days, I just buy stuff,
Yeah.
right?
A lot of
Like,
times it's just buy. You don't even like try to,
yeah,
haggle for it.
I'm
You don't haggle for it. You just buy it.
yeah, exactly. So, and the reason I bring that up is that what we're talking about now with I think is the equivalent of eBay auctions, right? Like it is the wild, wild west right
It's
now.
total Wild West. I mean, because if you go
Yeah.
to EU, they're putting a lot of controls in that some of the big companies don't like. But basically, the controls are basically you can't use people's images, you can't use their voices, you can't use their stuff without paying them. Right?
Well,
If
that I
you
think is that's a good rule.
well, that it's kind of like if you're a musician and I sample somebody's piece of music and I put it in my song, if I don't clear the sample, I'm paying all the royalties for that song to that person. It basically is it's set up and it's actually digitally set up to actually identify like if I pick Marvin Gaye and I put that groove in a song and I don't actually talk to the who owns the master, they're going to come at me and they're going to take
Mhm.
all the money from that song. If that song plays a million plays, they're going to take almost all of it
Right.
unless they
Although what
clear
did
it
I
and work on an
see?
arrangement.
Right. And again, I this is not my area of expertise at all, but I what I did read was that when Ed Sheeran got sued by another artist saying that he
Stole their stuff.
used their music, and then um, there was this very popular viral uh, comedians who basically showed that the same four chords are used in different combinations for almost the intro to every single song. And what I read is that that was part of the reason why Ed Sheeran won his
Well,
case.
some things are very common, but
Right,
like sometimes there are pieces of music that are so elaborate, even though you have a same common structure. It might be the way that somebody sang it and the intonation of like the musicians have a way of taking something. There might be the same notes, but how you approach those notes. If you
right,
make them significantly different and use microtonal, you do all kinds of other stuff, right? You can actually get still win the case. So
right.
there's certain things where people have like pentatonic scales, blues scales. Well, the blues is the blues, and there's only so many ways to do it. So
Hmm.
nobody usually is going to patent that because it's like traditional, like a traditional song. There's certain traditional
Right.
songs, folk songs. They're so traditional, you're never going to get a patent on. That's kind of
Yeah.
if you go in that space, you're not going to get
Yeah.
it.
Then again, we have gotten so far away from my area of expertise. I have no idea how any of that works.
Yeah, but I mean, the main thing is for people that like if you're taking somebody's like piece of film and then using it in your film,
Yeah.
and the director actually has some kind of licensing for that, and then you steal a large part of it, more than like 15 seconds, more than 30 seconds, like
Yeah.
then you can get hit because
Right.
it basically is like you have to credit just like if you're writing something, right, and you don't do
Absolutely.
your endnotes and your footnotes and you don't credit where you got the thing from. It's basically comes down to that. You need to
Right.
credit where you
Right.
actually are quoting something, and
Right.
that's the
Well,
bottom line.
right. In a lot of ways, we're kind of getting back to also to the example that I used about what it means to be a good leader or a good manager, right? Like, it's funny. There is no fine for in a company stealing somebody else's idea and calling it your own. But oh my God, maybe we should implement that. That might be a new, right? A new corporate policy that we're going to like promote to the world. You steal somebody else's idea, you got to pay them for it. They get royalties on that.
Yeah, well, if you take something that's a patent, if you took a competitor's patent, you're going to pay for it. It's
See,
just like
there you
in
go.
the world of ideas, like if, some companies actually allow royalties on their engineers. They actually get a piece, or some of them are just work for hire and they get a big fee or they get stock options or whatever. In some ways, the compensation has to be enough to get these people to give you that big idea, right? And if you give them enough stock options or you give them enough this, then they'll say, okay, I'll give up my rights and I'll give you the idea. Or actually, you could start to argue, it's like, well, you know what? If you're not going to give me the options, then you need to give me a commission. You need to give
Yeah,
me.
then again, I have read a lot of employment contracts, and what I will tell you is most employment contracts
Or work
will
hours.
have a clause in there exactly what you talked about in the very beginning, which is that anything that is created in the company on work hours with work computers
Is
is
theirs.
owned by the company, period.
It depends. Like if you're just trying to get to a new place with like a new idea, and you're trying to pull in guys who are going to give you that level up, then those guys might get a different contract. Because there's certain,
Well,
it's like, because the way things are going now, there's like certain types of mindsets or certain types of people who are out of the box thinkers. Like they might be more like guns for hire, like consultants,
right.
and
Well,
they
they
come
just need, right. I think the thing is that, maybe the message here to the listener is you need to A, read your employment contract, and B, you need to negotiate upfront. If you are going to be an innovator in a company, you need to make sure that the terms of your contract reflect that, or give you an option to get some of the things that you're talking about. This is not a conversation that you have once you've created something.
no, yeah,
This
you
is
have
a
to. This is one when you have something and somebody wants to bring you in, then you have to negotiate.
right.
Because when you
So,
actually have the candy and they want it,
yeah.
if you want it, you want a taste. I give you a taste, but then you really want it, then you need to pay for it. but yeah, I mean, things are getting to a point where people can start to build like their own brands. Like we were talking about, like with this AI, agentic AI, you can level up and you could be like your own like micro enterprise that's competing with somebody that had 100 people or 1,000 people.
That's right.
And then if you can do that, then you can say like, hey, I'm like two people and I'm in this marketplace and I'm going toe to toe with you. If you want to buy me out, then you got to give me something.
There you go.
So this is where people are going to have the future of this, is this all these ideas is like, instead of doing this busy work, you're doing a lot of in the head work. And the in the head work is going to be very valuable. So the future employment situations, you're going to need to make sure that you actually get paid what you're worth. So
Yeah.
whatever we
Amen to
had
that.
before, whatever we did before, is kind of null and void. You need to renegotiate.
That is good advice.
Yeah, I think that's where people like, a lot of times you run into companies and it's like warfare. It's like you get into a company like, and you're not having a good time, and
Yeah.
how do you know? Like a lot of times, some people don't know like when they should leave, or maybe they do, but they're comfortable in the
That's right.
toxicity of it. It's like
Well,
how do you
guess what? That's what a coach is super good at helping you do.
yeah, how do you get to be, if you run into people, it's like they're too scared to get out of the toxicity because that's all they know, and they somehow
Right.
think it's safe, but it's
Right.
like it's killing them. It's like it's not safe.
Yeah. Absolutely. We only got one life. So there is
Yeah,
that too.
yeah, because like, do you just get along to go along, or do you stand for what you believe in? It's like kind of like, it's like, I guess it's a personal decision of how much
Right.
like you're willing to risk in your terms of your
Yeah. I mean, but here's the funny thing about that, which is like, that is totally me, right? Like, I honestly was a terrible employee, just terrible, right? And I am the person who's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Let's just change that. And they're like, sure, Kim, yeah, we'll do that, right? Like 10 years from now. And so, but I was the thorn in their side. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. And I didn't have enough sense to just keep my mouth shut and keep my head down, right?
yeah.
So, as I like to say, the universe did for me what I couldn't do for myself, and I got laid off. Which I did technically get laid off, but frankly, they just found a way to fire me in
Mhm.
just a nicer way.
But sometimes the karma is like they get you to get to something, Some people don't realize that
Absolutely.
sometimes things happen. It might feel like this is like terrible, right? But like everything that happens, as a Buddhist, there's a reason why it happens, and sometimes like the thing that you think is terrible actually lifts you into the thing that gives you the most opportunity. And when you look
Absolutely.
back at it, you say, you know what, that actually had to happen, or I would not be here.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I think it was definitely, as I like to phrase it, which is exactly what you just said, which is that the universe did for me what I couldn't do for myself.
Yeah, or sometimes force it.
That's right, forced it, but it was really, you're right. You're exactly right. Like it had to happen, and it's what led me to this place, and this is a good place to be.
Yeah, I want to, we kind of started late, and I do have another show, but I want to get people to realize we have a QR code for you up there, and that basically goes to your Miller-Hershon.com. If people go to that QR code, and they go to your website, what do they find there?
So I think the first thing that you want to look at is go to the podcast tab so that you can see. I would say two things. Go to the podcast tab so that you can really see kind of what I'm doing and what's important. I think the second thing I would say is subscribe to the newsletter because it comes out once a week and it really does give you great material, and there it's always a give, right? It's always giving you agency. It's giving you an ability to take action on something.
I think it's really good to have like information that you can share, and that's what we always ask people to check the QR code, click on the URLs. We also have your Instagram, and we'll actually tag some posts that will create some reels
Awesome.
and some stories, and tag that. Within like 24 hours of every episode, we start to push those out. But I want to thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here and
Thank you.
talking about your whole process, of which is, unconventional wisdom is your podcast. It's Unconventional Wisdom About Conventional Wisdom podcast. So we do invite people to check your podcast out. And, we love to have fellow podcasters on. So we do hope that people check your podcast out, use the QR code, check everything out on your site, click through it. If you're interested, do a deeper dive. So I want to thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much. This was such a fun conversation. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.